Hey Siri, volume 100%.
That's very loud. Are you sure?
Yes, I am. Hey Siri, stop. Now I whispered that and she heard it. One of my favourite features of the Apple HomePod. Welcome to EFTM. This is our first look review at the Apple HomePod. At $499, this is certainly an expensive speaker. But it shouldn't be compared in any way to things like Google Home or Amazon Alexa because, like for like, they're very different products. The only similarity being the inclusion of a digital voice assistant. Siri here versus Amazon's Alexa or Google's Assistant. This is first and foremost a speaker, a home speaker, a speaker for your home, for any room in the home. And actually the smarts of this speaker are what Apple are most proud of, that are essentially outside of Siri. So let's talk through a few things that I can tell you about this speaker first and foremost. Now, I was lucky enough to spend a bit of time in the Apple's audio labs in Cupertino and actually see this thing dismantled on a bench, all the pieces, from this outer mesh covering through to the processing board on the inside. Tap to start speaking. That's how she responds. So there are touch controls on the top, as well as obviously voice. Around the bottom of the speaker, there are 7 what they call folded horn design tweeters. Now, these tweeters point all the way around the device so that you're actually getting a 360-degree sound. And then around this area here, up the kind of top third of the device, maybe slightly lower, is a subwoofer, a little woofer that moves at 20 millimeters at most. So a huge amount of movement in the subwoofer, but essentially it's protected and absorbed by a huge range of mechanical shock absorption inside. So you don't feel that sitting here on a desk. You don't feel a huge vibration. You certainly feel it gently, but it's a very gentle movement that you get from this overall design. And then at the top here, there's the processor board, and on top of that is a range of LEDs that display the Siri face, and then this touch-sensitive panel on top. The only thing that appears on the screen here is the plus and minus buttons for volume. So this entire area is touch-sensitive. I've paused it, obviously, and I can tap it to pause again. And obviously speak to Siri is actually the easiest way to control the speaker. Before we talk about Siri though, it's critical to talk about the sound quality. This, and if you read my full review at EFTM.com, and it's nearly 3,000 words, I've gone into a fair bit of detail there. This is, in audio terms, a speaker that competes with Bose, with Sonos, with serious audio brands like that. And I think that was one of the reasons Apple wanted people like me and others to see their audio labs in Cupertino. They have spent a lot of money and a lot of effort designing and researching the audio quality of this product. Anechoic chambers for as far as you can see, including some chambers that are so large they are embedded into the ground, into the building, and they were built specifically to research and design this product. Because what Apple's done here is not create something that pushes sound around 360 degrees. It actually intelligently detects where it's placed. So in an open room, 360 degree sound, magnificent. Up against a wall, and whenever I turn it on, or it detects a large movement because there's an accelerometer on board, it readjusts its sound qualities. And what happens is, because the sound is able to bounce off the wall behind it or the bookshelf, whatever it might be, there's an array of 6 microphones around the mid-range here, and it can then detect where it's placed and the amount of reverb that's coming, and it will adjust itself so that essentially if it's up against a wall, it'll actually fire the sound, only the ambient sound against the wall and not the vocals, so that you get the ambience bounced back into the room like the backing vocals, and the main vocals are sent directly to you using a beamforming style technology they've adopted here and created. So it's that ability to sense its environment. It could be in a bookshelf and just push outwards, essentially just in one direction, the key vocals. So that's the core smarts of this thing, and I know it's pretty easy to gloss over, but it's a very big part of what makes this speaker sound so good in any part of the room. I'm not an audiophile, but I would argue the bass on this is quite clear. It's not a deep, thumping, throbbing bass, but it's an ever-present bass. Whereas the kind of treble, the not the mids, the highs, are very crisp and clear. So very crisp treble, very clear bass, and maybe a slightly missing mids, but that may just be my ear. For one, I don't think I've heard vocals much like this on a speaker. Normally you get a booming overall sound, whereas I felt like I got a sense of the vocals in 99.9% of the tracks that I played on this. And I think having the vocals come through and having those either backing vocals or instruments as an ambient sound in the room, it was quite clearly a different way of listening to music. For example, I put it up against a big soundbar that I've got, and that was booming, throttling sound. But even playing it to my 11-year-old son, he said you can hear the vocals more from the Apple HomePod. So in terms of sound quality, it's hit it out of the park. It's a 5-star speaker in terms of sound quality, but at $499, does it actually compete? Because there's some more expensive Bang & Olufsen, Bose and Sonos products above that, but there's also a couple of Bose and Sonos products like the Sonos One and the Bose Revolve, the standard size, that are well under this, $200 less, and they do produce a really nice sound. I would argue though, the sound is better from this, and for someone really interested in their music, this is probably a very nice, not even mid-range, high-range sound quality that you'll achieve. And then I guess what will put you over the line, because you're comparing a couple of speakers, is the complete and utter Siri integration here. Now, this is made for people who live in the Apple ecosystem. This speaker can't be set up as a Bluetooth speaker. It can only be set up with an iPhone. So if you're not in the Apple ecosystem, you're only watching this to troll the fanboys. So if you're in the Apple ecosystem, the setup process is very much like the AirPods. It appears automatically on the screen of your iPhone, and you tap your way through the process. It automatically syncs the Wi-Fi and your iTunes account. And from that point on, you can AirPlay music to it from any device in the home, and you can also see what's being played on it from any device in the home, but really it's made to be used by voice. So we can ask Siri almost anything. Hey Siri, what's the weather today?
It's currently clear and 28 degrees in Wesselie. Expect mostly clear skies starting in the evening. Temperatures are heading down from 28 degrees this afternoon to 19 tonight.
Normal responses as you'd get, but she doesn't know anything about local sports. No NRL, no AFL, no A-League. In fact, not much at all locally. There are some local news organisations built in here, but if your phone is in the house, you can interact with certain parts of your phone. So you can send text messages, you can read WhatsApp messages and send WhatsApp messages. Anything with third-party Siri integration can work if your phone's in the house. If your phone's not in the house, anyone can use Siri to summon music and ask about music. But also there's a critical problem, I think, with this device, and that is that in a house like mine, 5 people, 3 kids, 2 adults with very differing music tastes, this has got my iTunes account linked to it. And I've turned on Music Discovery. It's learning about what I listen to, and it's using my learning history to determine what it plays. So if I ask it to play favourites, it'll play my favourites, not my kids. My wife starts listening to music, my kids start listening to music on this, it'll influence my iTunes music taste. And that's a real negative for me, because I'm quite enjoying what Apple is doing in terms of finding my favourites. So unfortunately, it doesn't account for an iTunes family sharing account, for example. It doesn't allow people that have multiple iTunes accounts in the home to work together. It doesn't recognise different voices. Anyone can speak to Siri and control the music and the other smart home link devices. And speaking of which, obviously, anything that's in HomeKit in your smartphone, lights, whatever you like, can be turned on and off with a simple speech. So, hey Siri, turn off all the studio lights. And the blue lights and the nano lift behind me. Hey Siri, turn on EFTM. Which will be these lights behind me.
Enabling EFTM.
Done. Hey Siri, turn the studio lights orange. Look at the blue.
Okay, there you go.
So all the home controls you would normally expect, that anything is linked to HomeKit, Apple HomeKit. You would already know that if you've got it in your phone. Look, the Siri response is excellent. The sound is amazing. The music knowledge is exceptional. So when you're playing a song, you can speak to Siri and ask certain questions about the song, like who's the guitarist or the like. But I've got to say, the technology, not only for the sound, but also the Siri response is unbelievable. So this, at full volume, I can whisper to Siri essentially in the room, and she will hear me. Now, it's not an easy thing to demonstrate. Remember, the microphone here is listening to me, so you'll hear the level at which I speak. Hey Siri, play Queen, We Will Rock You.
Playing We Will Rock You by Queen.
Hey Siri, volume 40%. Hey Siri, volume 100%.
That's very loud. Are you sure?
Yep. Now, if I sit back here, I can barely hear myself speaking. You can probably hear me because of the microphone. But I'm essentially whispering. But if I now say, hey Siri, volume 10%, no problem at all. I think that's amazing. I think her ability to hear you through a crowded room will be exceptional. Probably the best in breed in terms of smart speakers. I think the sound quality is exceptional. And I think that alone is a reason to buy it. At $4.99, it's a tough, expensive choice. But if you're even interested, you will love the quality of the sound, you will love the Siri integration, and hopefully over time she evolves a bit to learn a little bit more about Australian things, but also maybe expand that family sharing ability and learn a few voices. That would be the main thing she needs to learn. That's the Apple HomePod, available February 9. It's $499 here in Australia, and a full review, photos and everything at EFTM.com.
This is EFTM, everything for the man.